What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Established Run's NBA Injury Report Analysis Show, a Friday edition, which means we are blessed with the presence of Justin Fan along with Mike Gallagher, the two best in the business at breaking down the injury information analysis you need to make your DFS lineups, your season-long lineups, your spread bets, and your prop bets. Boys, Justin, how are you feeling about this 10-gamer on Friday? A lot of news.
I think we're dead to go under an hour. Let's set it at like an hour 15, an hour 20. I think that'll be a good target for us. But yeah, let's get into it.
Perfect. Mike, how are you? The Sheep Boys are in chat, ready to consume your flag plants and whatnot for the later shows. How are you feeling today?
Sheep Boys, feeling pretty good. Dame was going there. He was going to get there for us, but Boston pulled the plug. Yeah, I set the line in the tweet just now for minus 850 for over an hour. Probably low. Like it's like this, that's pretty. You could bet your house on this.
Probably
like,
good value.
Go over an hour.
Probably good value.
Before we came on, Mike said I have a lot of notes. I think him alone might go an hour.
Exactly. Yeah. Whenever Mike says he has a lot of notes, you're like, uh-oh.
Yeah, it's like,
I need to make sense for the 5 o'clock show.
Yeah, I'll holster them for matchups. We do a little plugging early, right? Hey, we do it at the end. You guys should subscribe, and I'm not going to give all the notes out.
That's right. You got to read the content behind the paywall for as long as this is in front of the paywall. There's this wonderful show here. All right, let's get into the game-by-game stuff. Let's start with Houston and Detroit. Houston side, fairly straightforward. No Dylan Brooks, no Tari Eason still. Justin, any notes on the Rockets?
Nothing on the Rockets side. Tari Eason out a couple weeks, and they're gonna continue to manage that lower left leg soreness. And yeah, I don't have a ton on the Houston side to get into. Mike, you got any rotation notes here?
Yeah, just my guy Jabari Smith getting all the minutes. That's really the only note. And Jalen Green's minutes are safe. That's really the story here with Dylan and Tari out. And great matchup, obviously. We love guards against the Pistons. And actually, we'll get to the Pistons side in a second because of a pretty big development.
Yeah.
People in chat wondering if we're going to see the rise of Cam Whitmore into the starting lineup. Do you think that is a possibility?
Yes.
Because Cam Whitmore came on strong last game.
Mm-hmm. There's speculation that Cam is going to come for that job with Jayshawn Tate. I wouldn't be surprised if that is something that happens in the near future. I think he's played well enough to cement a rotation spot even when they get Tari Eason back.
I'll just say that he just seems like a classic bench scorer role, So I think that, it's certainly he may get the minutes, but starting him kind of doesn't make a lot of sense. Like him and Jalen Green, the starting lineup, I don't think make much sense to me.
Yeah. Yeah, it could be a situation where you see kind of elevated bench minutes, like what we've seen from like a Cam Thomas or something like that, but might not make sense in the starting unit. Okay, Detroit side of things: Bojan Bogdanovic questionable, left calf soreness. Cade Cunningham out, left knee strain. Isaiah Stewart upgrade to probable with the toe sprain that he's been dealing with. Justin, what are your notes on the Pistons tonight?
Yeah, the Bogdanovic downgrade is notable. Doesn't bode well for his availability today, and we'll kind of just have Isaiah Stewart slot into Bojan's starting spot. So we should kind of see a similar rotation today with Hayes, Ivy, Livers, Stewart, Jalen Duren, assuming Bojan's out. That bench is going to be Sasser, Burks, Asar Thompson, Knox, and James Wiseman. I think they would start Bojan at the 3. That was my original projected lineup heading into the season before the injury happened. So assuming that, eventually when they're both in the lineup, I would expect that to be Hayes, Ivy, Bojan, Stewart, and Duren with Livers, going to the bench. Livers only played 15 and 17 minutes in his last 2 starts. He's been really marginalized. And I think if both of them are in the lineup, it's going to come down to Kevin Knox and Isaiah Livers kind of fighting for minutes. I think Sasser's fairly safe without Cade. And they need a little bit of backcourt presence there with him. So I think those two will get squeezed eventually. I think Joe Harris goes away. He's on the fringes when both those guys are back.
Yeah, and just to note, you covered pretty much all of it. Livers probably starts here on Stewart in Bojan's spot. And just want to note, we talked about how Jalen Duren could help their defense. No, since he's returned, 128 defensive rating, last in the league. 113 half-court defensive rating is absurd. So, yeah, they're quite bad. I don't really expect Isaiah Stewart to help them defensively too much. And should note, their offense is in a bad spot. Houston is really, really good at taking away transition offense, with their number 1 transition defense. So not a great spot for Ivy. Duran maybe gets it going against Şengün, but this is a tough spot. And actually, when the Boyan news came down, I hit Houston -7. I think they're going to smoke this team. I like how Houston's playing right now.
All right, let's move to Indiana and Atlanta. On the Indiana side of things, Tyrese Haliburton remains out here. Aaron Nesmith, Jalen Smith questionable, and some of the G Leaguers questionable as well. Justin, what are your expectations for what we see in the Pacers starting lineup tonight?
So we have a little intel. A la Cleveland Cavaliers, the Pacers got out a picture some shoot around, and both Aaron Nesmith and Jalen Smith were in starters jerseys at shoot around. So bodes well for their availability. Would expect both those guys to go despite their Q tag. We saw this game environment is amazing. Great game environment against the Hawks, 2 of the 5 fastest paces teams, 2 of the bottom 5 defenses. So this should be a really juicy spot. And yeah, Miles Turner, put up 27 points against the Hawks just a week ago. And, he had a really good game against the Wizards in a nut spot against Daniel Gafford. So, he's a headliner. Bruce Brown, I thought that was really interesting. His role emerging. He's seen the largest usage rate differential this season when Halliburton's been off the court. We'll note that he was third in potentials on the Pacers last game. It was TJ McConnell all the way up at 13, Andrew Nembhard at 8, Bruce Brown at 7, and Buddy Hield at 6. So I think Bruce Brown ran a little hot with the assists, converting 6 of those 7 potentials. If you're looking at that point guard position, I think TJ McConnell is clearly the guy for me. Even at, with Andrew Nembhard starting, Nembhard's been pretty disappointing as a starter in 26 minutes a game. I think he's at 18 FanDuel points per game. TJ McConnell clearly the guy you want of those two. And yeah, I think there's kind of more we can get into, but I want to toss it to you, Mike, if you have any thoughts on the Pacers.
Yeah, you kind of laid all that out nicely. I had almost the same exact notes in my matchups column. The only thing I wanted to note as well was their transition offense slipped against the Wizards, which is a little weird. They only had 18 transition points. That's their lowest since November 18th. That's certainly a Halliburton-related stat, right? So, I think that the game environment may not be as good. It's just Halliburton's impact. And should also note their defense isn't like too much worse without Halliburton, but their offensive impact really takes a hit, which is just a credit to how good Tyrese Haliburton is. Bruce Brown was handling a lot. It wasn't just passing. Like, we see some guys have elevated potentials, not all handing. He was like clearly number 3. TJ McConnell, despite light minutes, he was first by a lot. And then probably the most important note was no overlap. They didn't run Nembhard and McConnell together. I was looking for that. They've been running it about 40 minutes together as second unit teammates. So keep an eye on that. And then should note Jalen Smith had a back issue in warmups. Trainers checked him out and they told Carlisle he can't go. So as you mentioned, looks like he's going to be good to go. It's just kind of a flare up on him. So expecting him to go. Didn't affect Ben Mathurin's role, as they basically say, hey, Jordan Nwora, go in there and fill those minutes, which is what happened. Who's a pretty high usage guy. So I still think Mathurin's in a pretty good spot. It's a little tricky because Jalen Johnson adds a little bit of front court size. They can't go super duper small, but expecting Mathurin to consistently stay in the upper 20s, maybe hit the mid 30s if he's really, really hot early to get, check in the first quarter and third quarter and just run out there. So yeah, kind of where we're at, but great matchup. Obviously, Hawks' interior defense is terrible, one of the worst transition defenses. Expecting the Pacers to put up some numbers.
Yeah, I thought that was a pretty big indictment of how they intend to play going forward without Tyrese Haliburton. The fact that without Jalen Smith, they just slotted Jordan Nwora in instead of kind of overcompensating by extending other players' minutes. So I was skeptical. I thought we needed more guard minutes on the Nembhard-McConnell split before, and I was wrong. They were just the full 48. So
this team is just really deep. Even without Jalen Smith on Wednesday, the minutes were relatively in check. You only saw Obi, Miles, and Nembhard play 15 first half minutes, and Miles was the only one that played 30 plus minutes. They just slot guys in. It's just crazy deep.
Yep. Should actually note, Carlisle said we're, quote, probably going 10 deep until Haliburton gets back. So, you're basically slotting in Jalen Smith and Nwora's spot here.
Atlanta side of the equation, Clint Capella probable today with the right Achilles soreness. Garrison Matthews questionable left ankle sprain. Trae Young probable right shoulder soreness. They'll be without DeAndre Hunter and Wesley Matthews today. Justin, what are your notes on the Hawks?
Yeah, not too much concern. I went back and looked at Capella's issues with his Achilles thing. He missed 2 games last season with it. He missed The game earlier this season was due to left knee soreness, so it's not a huge enough issue for me to be concerned here with a potential fake P tag. Maybe his minutes get a little limited in that like 26 to 28 minute range instead. But yeah, I think expecting both Trey and Capella to be good here. We saw Trent Forrest back in the rotation Wednesday with both the Matthews out, saw 18.5 minutes, and we saw a little bit of Patty Mills, 6 minutes as well. I think the headliner here is obvious. Is Jalen Johnson, his development, his explosion, his growth, right up there for most improved player, in my opinion. 20, 11, and 4 over the last 5 games. And the minutes have been outrageous. Back-to-back games of 40 minutes for him. So the ceiling there is absolutely insane without DeAndre Hunter too.
Yeah, a couple of things to add. I'm curious to see. We've seen Trent Forrest really tick up against the true all-star caliber point guards. Shea, Halliburton, Maxey. Not really the case here, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if we see Trent Forrest take a little bit of backseat. Maybe we get Seth Lundy in the mix. Maybe AJ Griffin could come alive here. So kind of keeping an eye on that, just given without Halliburton, how it changes the dynamic of on-ball pressure, how it's needed. Maybe need more of a wing defender in the spot. So keeping an eye on that. And then want to note the Indy defense. So since they made the lineup change with Jalen Smith, they've actually been 10th in defensive rating, which is surprising because before that they were last. So really not as appetizing as we're kind of accustomed to here. So again, losing the pace with Halliburton, Indy's defense getting a little bit better. I'm not an over/under better, but I'm kind of feeling like this line's a little too high. So yeah, that's it for me. And should note, DeJounte Murray's minutes were full. We got that late hamstring tag. A guy who has no history of hamstring injuries was out there. It looks like he's good to go. So yeah, pretty sure. And he's been playing freaking awesome. Really good. Last 6-7 games for him.
We're in showcase season, Gallagher. We got to pull these guys out for their full minutes and get them out there.
Yeah, and should also note Trae Young, really good matchup. I'm not worried about Nembhard. The Pacers are second worst in pick and roll handle or points allowed. Trae Young, the NBA's leader in pick and roll handle or points this season.
All right, let's move to Sacramento and Philadelphia. On the Sacramento side, Kevin Huerter out. Just as soon as he gets that starter's spot back, left ankle sprain out. It's been a tough year for Kevin Huerter. What are your expectations, Justin? I assume we're back to Chris Duarte season.
Yeah, Chris Duarte wearing the starter's jersey at morning shoot-around, so he should slot right back in. A couple of assorted notes. We got Colby Jones, got the backup point guard minutes last game ahead of Keon Ellis. Looks like JTA has worked his way into the rotation now. He's been in there 2 straight games. We saw without Kevin Huerter on Wednesday, basically didn't play on Wednesday. He got hurt in the first possession, stepped on Keegan's foot and played like 41 seconds. So by all intents and purposes, he was out. So on Wednesday, we saw Malik Monk get all the way up to 16 and a half first half minutes before this one got out of hand. So his role could be really big. 20 straight double doubles for Domas. He's been rolling. And then my last note was big back-to-back lines from Keegan. Did come against the Pistons and the Hornets, 2 of the 3 worst defenses, but could produce here against Philly. But yeah, he's really come alive too. That's kind of all I got for Sacramento.
Yeah, don't have much to add. Pretty short leash. I think Colby Jones should be in there. Probably over. We've seen the Davion Mitchell and Keon Ellis stuff go away in the last 2 games. Not counting garbage time, they've only had 2.5 minutes of this Davion Keon Ellis. So they're basically playing Fox is the quote unquote point guard. Colby Jones is more of a 2. Kind of slotting Monk is more of like a straight 2, maybe a little bit of 3 to more of a 1-2 now. So that's kind of the way the minutes have shifted. It should mention De'Aaron Fox, right? The numbers are way down, which is I'll talk about Sabonis in a second, but the shooting's down a little bit, the usage is down a little bit. Maybe it's a little bit because Sabonis has run so hot, Monk coming up. So Fox is trending down a little bit. I'm not ready to press the panic button, but it is noteworthy that he hasn't been popping like he was. Go ahead.
So there's been talk that Fox has been dealing with an injury. He's been playing through it. He did look better throughout the course of the game. So I'm a little concerned. I think it's more the injury that he's not healthy than anything else.
Yeah, and also I mentioned it in matchups. Subscribe, by the way. If you remember, he rolled his ankle earlier this year, and he had mentioned that it's going to take him most of the season to get right. So I think that's what it is. And then he also, if you remember, a couple seasons ago, he had a grade 3 ankle sprain that cost him weeks, and he kind of compared it similarly, and he had a similar impact because of that. So I think that's what it is. But yeah, the beats have been asking about Fox because he is slumping.
Yep.
Let's get to Sabonis. My cover boy today. The 76ers are getting killed inside. We saw John Collins roll them to death. We saw Hawks had 24 roll man points. That's a really, really high number. And then just Sabonis is flamethrowing. He's at 25, 15, and 9 in 2024. Leads the NBA in front court touches in 2024 by a lot, by like 8, which is a big number. Huge game for him. He's cooking. I'm expecting a massive, massive game from Domantas Sabonis. And yeah, Keegan Murray just on fire as well. 66 true shooting in 2024. Matchup I think is pretty good. So yeah,
it's mostly just shooting for Keegan though. Like his peripherals are about the same. He's just shooting it way better, like from 3, from 2, like pretty much every spot on the floor. So I think it's kind of like I said, it might be like Pistons, Hornets induced because those are the last 2 teams they played. I want to kind of cool the Keegan hype a little bit for now.
Yeah. You know what though? For those of you who follow our NFL content team, you'll know that the guys over on the NFL side, they deal with some issues with premature capitulation. It's happened repeatedly. We've prescribed some hymns for these guys to see if they can help up their performance and not capitulate prematurely. But on the NBA side of things, it takes time for the capitulation. And I think we're at that level. You guys, both of you, during the preseason, were hitting me hard about Harrison Barnes and Kevin Huerter projections, and that Keegan Murray was going to be the guy that's going to step up and take the offensive role. And I'm going to capitulate. I'm going to capitulate. I'm going to take the L on this one. I gave it 40 games. This is not a premature capitulation. You guys, I held out as long as I could, but I've now capitulated.
You've seen enough. You've seen enough Kevin Huerter and Harrison Barnes.
It's official. I've seen enough. I've seen too much Harrison Barnes and Kevin Huerter this season, much like Mike Brown. So the capitulation is official.
Gonna need some Plan Harry B for that.
All right. Let's move to the Philadelphia 76ers side of things, where Joel Embiid remains out. Robert Covington out as well. I appreciate Underdog having the MVP tracker counter on Joel Embiid, games missed to this point. So, Justin, what are your notes here on the 76ers?
Yeah, I think the most kind of interesting takeaway I saw from last game was like the shooting guard minutes. So DeAnthony Melton only played 21 minutes, and he didn't play the final 10 plus minutes, including OT. So there was speculation that he was on a minutes limit in his return. That's probably the case. And we'll also note that Melton and Oubre were straight subs for each other. There was no overlap, and the sub Melton was out, Oubre came in every single time. So they've added up to 48 minutes. So assuming Melton was on a minutes limit and his minutes will come up from 21 this game, that really impacts the outlook of Kelly Oubre and lowers his ceiling kind of significantly for me. We'll note that Paul Reed, 19 minutes for him. His minutes have kind of been all over the place sometimes. Early foul trouble for him. Only played 10.5 minutes in the second half, though, and he sat OT to Mo Bamba. So a little concerning for Paul Reed. It wasn't really entirely foul trouble induced either. So, yeah, those are the 2 things that kind of stuck out to me most on Philly.
Yeah, and Nurse said he was on a minute. You were wondering, when people, I was wondering, where's he at? He must be on a minutes limit. And yeah, Nick Nurse said that he's on a minutes limit, and he will, quote, hopefully we'll bump him up for this game. So I haven't got to Philly minutes yet. I'd be probably like 25.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's a multi-game ramp up here from a pretty severe back injury. So, but not Paul Reed maybe could get it going, but he could look, talk about a guy who could look terrible on defense. Getting Sabonis, it could be really, really ugly for Paul Reed. So really wide range of outcomes for him.
Yeah.
We'll also note this matchup a lot harder to go small, just generally. Sabonis will punish small ball defenders, whereas like Onyeka Okongwu, that has not been part of his game yet at this point in his NBA development. So it might be a little bit of a tougher situation. Foul risk for Paul Reed high dealing with Sabonis, but there might be a better chance of 44 plus combined minutes from Reed and Bamba than there was last game in the matchup. Okay, let's move to Charlotte and San Antonio. On the Charlotte side of things, LaMelo Ball, the return of LaMelo Ball, listed as questionable, but expected to return tonight. Gordon Hayward remains out. Cody Martin listed questionable, Frank Ntilikina questionable, PJ Washington doubtful, and Mark Williams out. Hopefully PJ Washington is not on the Mark Williams plan of 12 straight games of doubtful and then weeks of out as well. Justin, what are your notes here on the Hornets tonight?
Yeah, LaMelo went through shoot around, expected to play per Woj. So looks like all systems are go. I kind of went back and looked. LaMelo's had extended absences in his past, and I just went back and looked like what the plan has been for him in the past and how many minutes he's played off extended absences. It's been around 28 has been the number, the floor. So they haven't really been like ultra conservative. I think I haven't really done Hornets minutes yet, but I'm thinking like 28 to 30 is where I'll probably
100%.
end up landing. So yeah, I think we can start there. So Zion just got upgraded to probable. Just got some Ingram probable. McCollum and Murphy are probable too.
Everybody up, yeah.
Everybody up on the Pelicans side. It makes things way easier for us when we get there. But yeah, LaMelo is probably going to be that 28 to 30 minute range for me. I'll toss it to you, Mike. We talked a little bit about like the guard rotation, who's in, who's out, Nick Smith Jr., etc. What are your thoughts there?
Yep. Yeah, so let's start. We add a couple things to LaMelo. So the last two times he returned from like month-ish absences, he was pretty full. And we heard the commentary last year, like, oh, I remember because we were kind of tilting. We're like, oh my God, he's getting all these minutes. What happened in the minutes monitoring? And he was going full. So you have that. So like there's that where he could be like 34.
Yeah.
That said, don't forget when he was like healthy-ish, we were like, earlier this year, we're like, where the hell are the minutes at? And then Steve Clifford said he was on a minutes limit when he was healthy-ish, right?
Yeah.
So it's a tough balancing act. That's kind of why we're at 28 right now.
Yeah.
But like if we're gonna kind of go up or down, like we could get up to 31 if things are like looking good and we're like, oh, no minutes limit, yada yada yada, or we could come down a little bit. But we're kind of landing on 28. And then as you mentioned, really tough. This is really the first time we've seen Miles Bridges, a healthy LaMelo, and a Rozier in a game all year. Hayward, still out. So it's kind of hard to finagle these minutes. Like we're trying to balance between this team is 8-27. Are they just going to play Nick Smith Jr. now? We've seen him play more. They need front court. You think they're going to probably play JT Thor? They've been playing Nathan Mensah. Where does Ish Smith fit in this? That's a kind of a question. So we're like pretty hedgy on those guys in there. I don't really have a great feel. Like my gut is telling me Ish Smith goes away. They play Nick Smith a decent bit. Bryce will be real light. JT Thor and Mensah are still in there. Especially when you got Wemby on the other side. I don't think they want to play super small there. But that's kind of my thoughts on the guys who don't really matter, but we're total nerds, sheep boys. We'll be really curious to see where you at. And then Brandon Miller should also mention too, before I forget, the illness thing was keeping him down. We were wondering where the hell the minutes were for a couple games, and then Steve Clifford said that he was ill, almost wanted to sit out the game, but he's competitive. We saw him run a little bit better before blowout, so I think he could be back to normal. But how do you feel about these kind of fringy, 7, 8, 9, 10 man in this rotation?
I feel good about Nick Smith Jr. I think that's a guy they want to play moving forward. I don't think Ish Smith is a guy that will stand in his way of minutes. I don't think it's going to be Frank standing in his way of minutes. Some of these other guys too. So I feel good. I mean, the last two games, like 35, 26, I think his minutes are, and he's, they spent draft capital on him and he's played well enough to earn some time. So I think they're in a spot where they're going to try to balance, like trying to be competitive now and playing their young guys. And I think like Nick Smith Jr. does a decent job of balancing both compared to like their other options, at that position. So I think I feel pretty good about his role moving forward.
All right, San Antonio side of things, Dominic Barlow listed questionable here. Zach Collins remains out. Justin, what are your notes on the Spurs?
My notes on the Spurs is Wemby time, baby. They're fully unleashing him. We have 7 straight games of Wemby with the usage rate higher than 30%. So he is the focal point of that offense. They're running things through him as they should. No longer point Sohan. Having Trey Jones in there has been amazing as expected. Having a real kind of table setter in there that can competently, run an offense, run a team. And Trey Jones, by the way, as if there wasn't any doubt, confirmed that he's starting again tonight. He said he'll start. So he's in there.
Yeah, and Pop said, the minutes limit's there, but they are making it a major focus to give him the ball. And it is quite clear, and we like centers against the Hornets. So, we saw, him and Westbrook are the only two people to be under 22 with a triple-double in a game. He might he might get like a block. He may only need 24 for a quad double in this spot here. So yeah, the like it's we always talk about condensed minutes sucking, but like his value per minute is like twice everyone else right now. So minutes limit be damned. Wemby could still totally smash, and the nuttiest of nut matchup spots for him. Should also know, great matchup for the guards too. When LaMelo's out there, we've seen a pretty drastic drop from a bad defense going to like really, really bad. So yeah, Spurs kind of all systems go. Keldon's role's been really strong. But Celtics usage has been a little spotty just because Wemby's soaking up so much. And then Trey Jones looks to be locked and loaded, as you kind of mentioned there.
Yeah, Wemby had a few passes in this game that were highlight reel level passes. The full court bullet on a line dime was the one that was most notable. But he also had kind of like a no look to a cutter that was moving through. I think it was Vassell cutting through the lane. That was really impressive. I was like, "Ooh, I didn't know you had that to the game as well, Wemby." Like if you're gonna start pulling out, some mini Jokic flashes as well on the passing side of things, like whew, all bets are off on what the ceiling is for Wemby on any given night. All right.
I should note one more thing. Pop said that he was a good passer before he got to the Spurs, so Pop taking no credit for the Wemby highlight passes.
They were impressive. Golden State and Chicago. Golden State side of things, Draymond Green remains out, return to competition, reconditioning. Moses Moody out, left calf strain just as he was getting going. He's on the Kevin Huerter plan here. Chris Paul and Gary Payton also listed out as well. So, Justin, it has been ugly in Warriors land of late. What are the expectations tonight?
That we're going to lose again. I don't really want to talk about it. It's been bad. I mean, obviously, this group has weathered a lot of storms together, a lot of rough patches, and this really feels kind of like close to the end of it. And Steph's comments after last game kind of pointed to the fact that everyone's on a trade block right now except for him. Like I could see Clay, Draymond, Wiggins, Kuminga, every single one of them being moved at the deadline. Like nobody's safe. It's clear like this isn't working. So the vibes are at an all-time low right now, and the Moody injury only kind of adds to that. Obviously, the depth was a huge issue already without Chris Paul, without GP2. Now no Moody means we're gonna have to see a lot of Podziemski because he got benched. I mean, unless you want to see a lot of Corey Joseph, I don't really see where else the guard minutes are going to come from. It's like Steph,
Lester, baby. Lester Quinones time.
I don't know if they want to go to Quinones or Jerome Robinson just yet. Those guys have just been garbage time as of late. I think we might see some nominal minutes from them, but I mean, I don't know. It's just a bad spot for the Warriors right now.
Let me jump in on some Pods quotes from Kerr. He said that he, quote, could be a little bit of a rookie wall. He, quote, may be a little bit tired, and his defense, quote, hasn't been as good in the last couple. Not good. We bet Pods over in this game. I am never betting. At least for the foreseeable future, I am not signing off on a single Warriors over. Like I'm an instant no. Unless it's Steph. They got to play Kuminga. They've got to play Kuminga. Period. He's the only guy I think that is like the NBA caliber player besides Steph. How good's Clay? And I mentioned this in matchups. Like if Clay has a bad game, they're losing. If Clay has a great game, they could have a chance. This is the Clay spot. He's number 2 in catch and shoot points in the NBA. The Bulls give up the most catch and shoot points in the league. If Clay has a big game, I think they can win this. It's all Clay. And even Steph sounded like Steph is pretty boring in pressers. He was like, he like called definitions of insanity and all that for the way they're trying out these lineups. This is the worst. It's disjointed. This is the worst. And you and I, we're all Kerr-backers here.
Yeah.
I mean, he's really, really struggling here, man. I mean, he doesn't have a lot of answers. These guys just aren't good. Wiggins is a disaster.
Yeah.
Pods is playing terrible. Steph's not even playing that well. It's going so poorly. And I wrote in my matchups for the starters because my projected starters were a different lineup that will start the second half because Kerr just doesn't know what to do. It's annoying, but anything else you guys want to add?
I mean, so the thing is, like you mentioned those Pods quotes, and I will admit, like Pods is my guy. He's a Santa Clara alum. I'll back him, but he's been playing terribly. But the quotes are less concerning now because you can bench him for Chris Paul, right? You can bench him for Moses Moody. Now you're just running out of bodies to cut his minutes with. So yeah, he's playing poorly, but you're gonna put in Lester Quinones instead. Like I don't kind of see that. Corey Joseph, I don't think is the answer either. So I think he's kind of just forced to let him play through it. So I don't think there's like nearly as much downside to Pods' minutes now that they don't have Chris Paul and Moody.
Mm-hmm. All right, Chicago side of things. Nothing really big here on the injury report. Torrey Craig out, Julian Phillips questionable. We got the return of Vooch and Levine to the starting lineup last game. I thought that Drummond might have earned enough of a role to, take Vooch from the 33 to 35 range that he was before to maybe the 30 to 32 range. That was not the case. Drummond played only 13 minutes last game. This game did go to overtime, so you're seeing a little bit of inflated minutes, but they played a pretty condensed rotation on the whole. Any other notes here, Justin, on the Bulls?
No, I think we kind of expected maybe a Kobe White drop-off with Levine back in there, but that hasn't been the case. If anything, Levine being there has enhanced Kobe in terms of getting him less attention and getting him better looks. So I think, Kobe, last time I looked, he was right up there in terms of minutes played in the league.
Number one.
He is seeing a massive load and like we're seeing with this rotation, they're going to play tight. I think we covered this spot like a couple of weeks ago, just kind of figuring out what this Bulls rotation would look like when everybody was back. And we talked about like an 8.5 man rotation. And this is kind of what we're seeing now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, last two games without Vooch, and it's Kobe. Kobe's my guy. Last two games, he's first in touch time with the minutes limit gone. First potential assist at 12.5. Even driving, even with Levine and DeMar, he's driving 17 times a game. Is awesome. So it's great. He's here to stay. I think. Dink would always say, we're just gonna give him Steph Curry baselines. He's playing better than Steph Curry right now, so I think Kobe could kind of get cooking here. I almost coverboyed him. Just the Sabonis matchup was too good. I think we could get a pretty big Kobe White game here. DeMar also really high minutes. I think he's second or third as well. But yeah, full minutes coming. Dalen Terry has iced Javon Carter. Billy Donovan said that could change because the matchup. Houston has a lot of size. Certainly, you would think you'd want a little help there with Steph. So I think Javon may come back in over Terry. I haven't got the Chicago minutes yet. So that's kind of my lean. And then, Caruso also starting because they want to keep him this short stint. So I think they'll keep Paul off the bench. Caruso will pick up Steph to start this game as well.
Let me chime in here. We covered the Hornets already, but some kind of new intel came out on LaMelo specifically that I want to touch on.
Oh, yeah.
He says he's obviously expected to play, but he's going to be a game time decision, going to go through warm and see how he feels before making a final call. And then we also got quotes about his minutes workload. They said managing his minutes is going to be key. He's not going to be on significant restrictions, Clifford said, but they're kind of going to be, they have a plan in place and it sounds like they're going to ramp him up. So I think expecting like 33, 34, probably unrealistic to start. And it looks like they're going to be fairly conservative. And we've seen like consistently when he came back, that minutes from a long absence, it was 28 from the start. So that's kind of where I had him initially.
Yeah, we'll probably come down to 27 just because, again, like adding the fact that he was managed earlier this year, I think that's kind of why I would be a little bit more pessimistic. So I think we'll be down to 27 now. Shout out Rod Boone.
Yep, shout out Rod Boone. Yep.
All right, Clippers and Memphis. Clippers have nothing really on their injury report, so I think we can skip over them pretty quickly. Memphis side, they're without Marcus Smart, Derrick Rose, Ja Morant, Santi Aldama, Steven Adams, Brandon Clark. Good news, Jake LaRavia is available.
Hey.
What else you got on the Grizzlies, Justin?
Is that all the good news you have?
That's all I got. I mean, Gigi Jackson's available too. I suppose that's good news.
Let's go.
So with
no Bismack Biyombo as well, I should say. Bye to Bismack.
You think?
So I think we're seeing 11 available now with LaRavia and Gigi Jackson back. So expecting that starting lineup to be Bane, Kennard, Vince Williams Jr., Jaren Jackson Jr., and Xavier Tillman. And that bench will be Gilliard, Conchar, Zaire Williams, David Roddy, and then the G League guys, LaRavia and Gigi Jackson. Talked about this a little bit with Mike last night, just about if you think Jaren would start at center or power forward, I think then bringing G.G. Jackson back up gives them a little bit more front court depth, a little more center depth if they need it, to where they'll start Jaren Jackson and Tillman together. So 8.5-point spread right now seems a little light to me.
I hit it at 7.
Yeah, I think the Clippers should take care of business. This team is absolutely rolling right now. I think we're going to see basically Point Bane, so his role should be massive tonight. Assuming this stays relatively attached, I think Bane has a great outlook and probably the best outlook of any of the Grizzlies players tonight. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah. So Desmond Bane, obviously this huge game. I try to tell you guys, Desmond Bane against Dallas, just bet the over every time. He's going to hit it for you. But so let's talk. I want to talk about the starting lineup. And I'm going to pull up another box score here because we saw the last time that two games ago with when Tillman was out there, we saw this, pulling it up now, this grand opening, grand closing, 3 minutes of Tillman, and then they put Vince Williams in there. And after the game, from that game, they said it was a quick decision. It was the right decision. Huge win for them. One of their best wins with John Morant in a sling, and they said things were turning around for them. Fast forward a day later, Jazz out for the year. Anyway, so why did they do that? They did that because they needed more people to guard Kevin Durant, Booker, and Beal.
Yeah.
Clippers, you need the same. You have the same problem. Obviously, a little bit different, pick and roll style, yada yada yada. But you need more wing defense. So there's that. You only have two bigs. One of them is notorious for fouling. Do you really want to run them out there together? I think it just makes sense to utilize your center depth to cover that 48 a little bit more, just because you're not as prone to foul trouble. So, and you've got wings. You've got Gigi, you've got Zaire, you've got Conchar, you got Roddy, you got wings. So I think that it just makes sense from a roster construction standpoint or a rotation construction that you put those guys kind of in one column, cover that, overlap them a little bit, and then use your wing depth to fill out the 4 minutes. That's kind of my thought for me. Don't feel too strongly about it, but
you have Zaire in there instead of Tillman.
We have Zaire. Yeah, I have Zaire. Zaire starting. They like him for pressure on the ball. I think he's guarding Paul George. Congratulations to Vince Williams and getting the new contract. Now go guard Kawhi Leonard. So that's kind of where I'm at. And then also she mentioned Desmond Bane. So I was kind of getting this. Jenkins said that he could play 40 now. So the upside is outrageous. Desmond Bane is my original guy, not my guy this year. He's got big things coming here. Huge. Should mention the role too. Stats McGee here. He had 8.6 minutes of touch time. Desmond Bane, that is like Luka level touch time. 18 points on 21 drives, 11 potential assists. It is Alpha Bane season.
All right.
Where are you at on this, Dink? Where you come down on starters?
In terms of the starter stuff, I think it's probably more likely that they start wing than big, but I would just say that from a pick and roll coverage perspective, they would much rather have Tillman as their main defender in pick and roll and Jaren Jackson helping down, as opposed to Jaren Jackson as the primary defender in pick and roll, which that's the one thing that I would say is the potential that they have Tillman start alongside, is just that with the Clippers starting unit, you have to defend a lot of pick and roll with James and Zubac. So that's my only thing, because Tillman has really quick hands for pick and roll defense. He's actually quite good in that spot. But I think it's probably more likely the wings. Could see it either way. I probably am like a 60-40 lean on the wing side of things.
Yeah, we got about the same. We got a little bit of a hedge on that. Should note for our minutes.
Okay, on to the Orlando and Miami game. On the Orlando side, they are without Franz Wagner, Jonathan Isaac, Kevon Harris, Gary Harris, Jet Howard, and questionable tag on Wendell Carter Jr. So, Justin, what are your notes on the Magic and Wendell Carter Jr. tonight?
I don't have a ton there. Obviously, when he comes back, he'd be part of that 3-man rotation at center with Goga Batadze and Mo Wagner, cut down the minutes of both. We'll note that Cole Anthony was limited to just 7 minutes on Friday due to a thigh contusion. So would expect Trevlin Queen and Anthony Black's minutes to scale back, especially with Joe Ingles off the injury report and now back in the mix. I'm curious to see how they kind of work out that bench rotation, because I have 7 players that are in the mix for minutes on that bench. And I don't think they're going to run a 12-man rotation. So someone, I think either Anthony Black or Trevlin Queen are going to have to go away. Curious to see. I went Hedge Life, obviously, with that for now, but just interested to see. And yeah, we'll see what Cole's minutes look like. Obviously, when they've been really short as of late, and he's really gotten up there some of these games, 30 plus. They prefer not to just because he's been banged up, but would expect his minutes to be relatively managed given they have a little bit of guard depth now with Joe Ingles back on the mix too.
And then remember last week we were talking Cole Anthony minutes, and I kind of gave Dink a double take when I said he could be like 20, and it's because of the thigh thing. He's been dealing with this for weeks, and it could kind of crater. So yeah, he has that risk. Really, game in, game out. This is a thing he's going to have to manage. I'm with you. We kind of took Queen down a little bit, valuable on the chessboard, but not so valuable in the Magic rotation for the Queen. But and then we also took away the Mo Wagner power forward minutes, most of them, because Joe Ingles is back and all that. And then should mention Markelle Fultz is going to need a multiple game ramp up. Been playing quite poorly. They said they're going to give it time, so expect a little bit of a ramp up on Markelle Fultz. My best ball shares with Markelle are not looking very good right now.
I wanted to see if I'm way off base on this because I had a reaction to a tweet that I saw the other day. How old do you guys think Goga Batadze is?
26.
I'm gonna say 29.
Yeah. So okay, I'm not off base then. I saw a stat on like the top defenders in. I'm not sure if it was EPA or what advanced statistic it was, but top defenders under 25, and Goga Batadze
wow,
like at the top of the list.
He's 24.
Yeah.
24, wow.
Yeah. I thought he was like 27, 28 as well. Like I did not.
I think
he's young when he came on the team.
I think it's partly a look thing too. He looks old.
Yeah.
And he's slow. Like he just plays like an old dude.
He's been defending well, and like shout out to the Magic for like taking another. What they have done in recent years is like take chances on guys that other organizations have given up on at the earlier stage, and then seen if they can develop anything from them. And they've gotten good production from Goga this year. So shout out to the Magic. Heat side of things. Oh, Justin. We got an report for your Miami Heat here. Jimmy Butler, doubtful. Tyler Hero, doubtful. Kyle Lowry, doubtful. Competent point guard play, doubtful. Caleb Martin, probable. RJ Hampton listed available. What are your notes on the Heat?
Yeah, I want to start in the starting lineup because I think there's a lot of ways that can go here, and I have some questions about a couple spots, right? So tentatively, this kind of came right before the show. I have penciled in RJ Hampton, Marquez, Highsmith, Jovic, question mark, and Bam Adebayo. So there's two spots here, obviously, we have to get into, right? The point guard spot, RJ Hampton versus Josh Richardson. I don't think Josh Richardson has started a game this season, if I'm correct. And RJ Hampton obviously has gotten a couple spot starts, right? He got a spot start, I think, on like Christmas or something, where he played like 5 minutes and then
Utah
lost.
game. I remember that well. Yeah.
So he's
some of us rogued and fell for the over 8.5 PRA.
How could it be so low? Yep.
Yeah, that did not go well. So
could you get that 8.5 minutes line?
It reeled me right in, man. I was like 8.5. RJ Hampton tries to get stats out there. I'll take an 8.5 over. Reeled right in.
Yeah. I think 8.5 minutes might be very realistic for him. So I think I have him as a starter, but I have very low expectations for him in terms of minutes. He's just like a paper starter at this point who doesn't deserve to start. I think I've said this on the show before. Jamal Cain should be playing above RJ Hampton. Like he's undoubtedly a better player. But anyways, I have Hampton in there at the starter. I think Josh Richardson will play more minutes off the bench. Duncan Robinson should play a lot off the bench too. And then Caleb versus Jovic at power forward is interesting to me. Caleb got upgraded to probable. You kind of look at his game log before he got hurt. He was in the 30s. He's playing big minutes. I think he's a guy who could have a big role today. Without Jimmy and Tyler Hero and Kyle Lowry with them shorthanded. So curious to see. I think that's more of the question for me at power forward. Ira Winderman, put out like his guess of a lineup, and it had Hampton and Jovic in there too. So that's kind of where I'm leaning as of now. But where do you guys kind of fall on that Jovic versus Caleb argument, and how aggressive should we be on Caleb's minutes today in his return?
So last time Caleb returned, certainly a different injury, a more severe knee injury. He was really limited.
Mhm.
So that we got him pretty capped, man. We got him, I think, at like 19 or something like that. So I think it's gonna ramp up. And really, the Jovic quotes from Spoelstra really stuck out to me. A
Right.
couple games ago, he says, "Hey, if they got him, they're gonna play him, or they're gonna send him to Sioux Falls. Hey, they got him." So I think he starts. We got like low 20s on him. And then there was another quote saying that they just need a, very Darvin Hammy. They just need a consistent starting lineup. So I'm with you. I think they start RJ grand opening, grand closing, and
Yeah.
then Jaime Jaquez, Jovic, Haywood Highsmith, Bam. Bam's role is going to be stupid high
Yep.
in the
Yep.
spot in the matchup that should be okay, not great. Orlando's rim defense is pretty good. Shout out Goga. So that's where we're at. Duncan should be pretty busy. Pretty good matchup for threes. And then we're pretty light Jamal Cain, man. Like I kept thinking they were going to play him, and they haven't. And they're just playing more zone. They don't really care about on-ball defense. That they've kind of gone that route. They didn't play zone at all in the Houston game, and then they played it pretty good bit against the OKC Thunder. And shout out to OKC. That was a really good win for them against Miami. And obviously not as good as yesterday.
I haven't dug into it, but I'd probably project like Richardson and Hampton together at like 43 to 45 minutes, somewhere in that range.
Yep,
with like a couple,
right there.
Minutes, and then I'd go like if it's like 44, I'd put like 32-12 or something, and go Josh Richardson at 32 and RJ at 12, something like that.
Right with you. I think we're
exactly like where I would kind of initially put it at, and Caleb's the most interesting person in this rotation. I mean, just I was really curious about your guys' thoughts of how limited he would actually be in his return. I think there's a range.
I think he's going to be limited. Yeah, we got him pretty limited.
One other note I'll say there is just I don't think you're going to see it in the first game, but they could also just play Caleb down positionally. Like he originally wasn't really meant to be a 4, just kind of was a 4 out of necessity last year, and so they could also just there's a lot of wings and a lot of like positional flexibility with a lot of these guys that they could just play bigger lineups too. And the Magic are a bigger team on the whole, so I think you'll see it in spurts tonight because it's his first game back. But I think if anything with Hero and Butler lingered, I think you could see more creative solutions than that. I think because I don't think they're expecting the Hero stuff to be long term. I think we're going to see what you guys are talking about in terms of just like plugging holes quickly with RJ Hampton and then kind of moving on. But I think they have more creativity at their disposal because Jaquez can be a ball handler for them. Like they could play like really big lineups with ball handling between Bam Adebayo, Jaquez, Richardson, even Jovic, like as a secondary playmaker. Like they have guys who can move the ball a little bit.
Yeah, and fan, we are exactly the same. We have 32 J Rich, 12 RJ Hampton.
Yeah. I think Duncan won't play a lot too. I'm thinking like upper 20s for him. He'll have a big role off the bench, and then
we get 28.
Like massive minutes for Jaquez and Bam Adebayo should be the focal points in terms of offense and usage and all that.
Portland and Minnesota. On the Portland side of things, DeAndre Ayton doubtful, Shaedon Sharpe listed out, Moses Brown out, Jabari Walker listed probable here. Mike, I'll go to you. Portland, they kept it within 70 last night, but wasn't quite enough for some of the overs that we took. We need them to keep it within at least 40. Seemed like. So what are your thoughts on Portland tonight?
Yeah, tough scene for we bet Tumani Kamara over because we thought he had garbage time, and he did have garbage time. He got the 32, just couldn't make anything. He had a shot at a tip in to give us the win on an over and no go. So we're basically swapping out Shaedon Sharpe for Malcolm Brogdon here. We saw that Malcolm Brogdon was, quote, in a tough spot for minutes when Shaedon was healthy. Shaedon aggravated his groin, not great, expecting to miss multiple games here after they were, ramping him up, take the ramp up off, and, he gets hurt. Tough scene. So, one more for Ayton. We are going to get Jabari Walker back. That's a big piece. And it's going to affect, I would say it's going to affect Baji more than it's going to affect anybody else. I think it takes a lot of upside off Duop Reith. The matchup there, they're probably not, I think had he been healthy yesterday, I thought they would have started him for the SGA matchup, pick and roll, yada, yada, yada. So I expect Jabari Walker to pick up most of the backup center minutes, pick up some 4 minutes. It's a little bit easier to do that now that you have no Shaedon Sharpe. So that takes a little bit of upside off of, a lot of the fringy guys. Thibel's minutes will be pretty light. Tumani's minutes could be a little bit lighter. We know they trust Jabari as more of a wing defender. Tomori's more of an on-ball, so generally pretty safe. And then Duop Reese minutes floor comes way down here. And they like him for rebounding, Jabari. So, yeah, Jabari returning is kind of a big deal. Awful game from Simons. Only had 6 potential assists yesterday. That bet was dead on arrival. And not just so that burn the tape. Tough scene. I don't know if you have anything else to add.
They might run it back tonight with the same box score.
Yeah.
I mean, just sub Minnesota on for OKC. 15.5-point dogs. Second leg of a road back-to-back. Pass.
I wrote nothing. I wrote here's matchup. I wrote nope, don't like that for the Blazers.
Okay. Let's if you had to pick someone that you're interested in on the Blazers side, who would it be? One person.
I guess Grant. I think Simons gets Jaden McDaniels.
Think?
Jabari?
Man, it might be Jabari.
Yeah.
It might be Jabari.
There's my Blazers notes. I just wrote don't like that.
Yeah.
No
Utah. Minnesota side of things, Rudy Gobert is questionable with left hip soreness. Thought that the last game that he missed was more of a, their weird travel thing back to back, a little bit of more of maintenance stuff. But Gallagher, I believe you had pointed this out originally when the injury happened in our Slack chat that he might be probable the next few games with this hip contusion soreness issue. Do you expect to see him play tonight against Portland?
I do. We've seen routinely the Wolves run this Q tag thing. Again, it's a little bit tough to get a read on it because we haven't really seen him return yet. I think that that's the circumstances were why he sat out. So I think he's in. That's kind of it. And obviously Conley's back, so he'll be back in the starting lineup. A pretty good game from Nickeil Alexander-Walker overall. So, yeah, that's pretty straightforward. And then, as I mentioned, Jay McDaniel's probably getting the assignment on Anthony Simons.
All right, let's move to Toronto and Utah. On the Toronto side, Pascal Siakam questionable, back spasms. Otto Porter Jr. doubtful here. Jakob Poeltl remains out. Justin, what are your expectations on Toronto tonight?
Yeah, Siakam went through shoot around this morning without any reported issues, so he should be back in the lineup, good to go. I think his return probably will limit the ceiling of Emmanuel Quickley the most, but I still like Quickley's spot overall. We've seen Scotty Barnes, his role hasn't quite been what we maybe expected it to be with them making that trade with OG, but I think he should be back. Siakam tonight, quell the conspiracy theorists out there that we're talking about Jalen Smith being ruled out as well, and some Jarris Walker being ruled out as well. So I think he should be back, and I don't expect any real minutes limits with back spot.
Yeah, pretty good. Just back to like Gobert, just back to back related, should be fine. Don't have too much to add on the Siakam front. Yeah, quickly. Good matchup. Utah worst team per possession and pick and roll handlers. IQ one of the best pick and roll players in the NBA, so I like this spot for him quite a bit. Yeah, Scotty's role has been way down. The drives are down. The touch time's way down. The rebounding's down. We talked about that on last show, that he's just guarding the number one guy all the time, and it's really been affecting him. I expect to get Lauri Markkanen in this spot. So, and then should shout out RJ Hampton. 70.4 true shooting, and just with the Raptors time, he's the most efficient catch and shoot player in the league. 1.67 per possession is a ridiculously good number. Obviously, small sample, and it will come down. But he's been marvelous, man. They've been running this they run the overload offense to the left and swing it to him over on the right. And he just kind of does his little thing and either hits a shot or drives. So he's been playing great. So and should mention on the Jazz side before we get there, their defense, man, we talked about this last time. In the last month, they're number 4 in half-court D. All of a sudden, this team is defending. They are getting killed in transition. They're still most points allowed. They give it up to guards, but they don't give it up anywhere else. Their rim defense has been really good. They've been better on closeouts and catch and shoot stuff. So the Jazz, shout out to Will Hardy and Simone Fontecchio. That's the skeleton key for good defense.
Really well. He's been playing really well, Fontecchio.
Yeah.
All right, Utah side of things, I think we can move.
Oh, Dick, you're not going to say
here.
anything. I was leaving the Thad stuff for you there, man.
I mean, what do you want? I already won. I already won that game.
Won.
I've moved on. To Thad games. I'm looking for my next off the wall Galaxy Brain starting opportunity. But yeah, no, I mean, Thad's a competent NBA big, which they are lacking on this team.
Yep.
So he's the last one standing.
I do actually want to mention Chris Boucher. If not for 3 quick Jonte Porter fouls, he might have been out of the rotation with Siakam out. We talked about this on the pod yesterday. My boy is nice. I hope no one has Chris Boucher as their guy. That would be quite bad. That'd be worse than Pirtle. But yeah, he's down. He's down insurmountable levels of bad.
Utah side of things, I don't think there's anything really to cover here from an injury perspective. Any rotation notes you guys have, or should we move forward?
Mm-hmm. No.
Shout out to the Jazz, have won 9 of the last 11. We thought they were deep in the tank. Hardy's turning things around. He was experimenting a little bit with that starting lineup, finally found a unit and a rotation that really worked out well for him. So yeah, they're rolling. Shout out to them. They're really turning around, and some impressive wins lately too. Obviously, that Denver win on Wednesday.
I sold the floor on the Jazz, and I feel so dumb about it. When they were like 6-13 or whatever, their Caesars was hanging up some in-season lines, and I took Jazz under 32.5 wins or something like that when they were 6-13. I was like, oh, I'm feeling great about this. Yeah. And then here we are. They're basically back to 500, and I'm dead.
Yeah. I'll actually mention one matchup note. Pretty weak rim defense without Pirtle down there. That's Jordan Clarkson's music, man. I mean, whenever he has a weak rim defense, he really has strong games. He'll get a lot of Dennis Schroeder now that it's going to be Pascal Siakam likely in the starting lineup. I don't care. I think Clarkson can have a big game today.
All right, New Orleans and Denver, last game of the slate to cover here. New Orleans side, Brandon Ingram listed probable, Trey Murphy and Zion Williamson upgraded to probable, CJ McCollum probable as well. So it looks like we'll have kind of all the main pieces here for the Pelicans. Any notes on the Pels front, Gallagher? I should note that the latest edition of the Established Run NBA podcast available on this YouTube channel did cover the Pelicans' recent surge in depth. So if you're looking for more Pelicans content after this show, click on that next video and get your fill. Gallagher, what are your thoughts on what we have from the Pels tonight?
Yeah, good to go. Kind of thought it was just this is a national TV game. You're kind of setting the table for tomorrow. They are on a back-to-back there at Dallas. So I would expect somebody, probably Zion would be number 1 on my list. Ingram number 2 on my list. Again, I'm talking tomorrow. CJ had a little ankle tweak. Looks like he's okay. And then actually I take that back. Trey Murphy probably number 1 to set given the knee management. So he's probably sitting. He's in this little 20 to 25 sweet spot. Played great. Their bench killed Golden State yesterday. A little bit of Jordan Hawkins action and Trey Murphy. So yeah, full minutes. Really great game from Valanciunas. Mentioned on the podcast over the last month. They have the number 1 defense in the NBA. They are locking teams down. Schedule helped a little bit, but they played some good teams. So yeah, really good game, man. We'll talk about Denver in a second, but really good nightcap after kind of a not a great game without Embiid for the Kings Sixers. But I'm pretty excited for this game. This is probably my favorite game of the day. I'm not too excited for Portland today. Portland, Minnesota, for sure.
Yeah, coming in, I was kind of expecting they might stagger and rest 2 today, rest 2 tomorrow, the Boston Celtics plan. But it looks like they're just playing everybody today, then going to rest tomorrow. I think at least 2 of these 4 guys are going to be out tomorrow. Murphy, Zion being the most likely. They have a tough turnaround. They play 9 Central tonight, and then they play 6:30 Central tomorrow. So it's like a 21-hour turnaround. And these are just precautionary tags to not get in trouble by the league. So I fully expect at least 2 of these guys to be out tomorrow.
All right, Denver side of things, no Julian Strawther, otherwise fairly clean injury report here. Gallagher, any notes on the Nuggets?
This is a terrible game from them, and you've got to wonder how long they're going to stick with this Jamal Murray second unit thing that they've been running. I don't know why they don't run Jokic as kind of sub out Jokic earlier, run him with the second unit. He's such a talent, elevator, and these guys have been a little consistent. But pretty clean on the injury report. Jamal Murray, no more minutes limit. And I'm curious to see how they handle the Zeke Naji, DeAndre Jordan stuff. We saw that against reboundy type of teams, they go with DeAndre, New Orleans decent on the rebounding side, so I would lean DeAndre there. But yeah, that's kind of it. I don't really have too much to add. And you're about to cash the over ticket. By the way, we're 59 minutes and about 30 seconds. So congrats to those who took the minus 850. That was a bad line by me.
Any other notes, Justin, on Denver? I would try to speed through a close here,
right.
but I can't do it in 30 seconds. I can't. I don't have the micro machines of 3x voice speed that I can go to the Mina Kimes special. I don't have it in me. Any other notes on the Nuggets, Justin?
No, we'll just gotta support the people that support us.
No. Yeah. All right. Since we will not manipulate the markets,
I'll just add one thing since we're over. Jamal Murray, who's been a little sputtering, gets hurt, so it could be a pretty big Jokic game.
All right. As always, support the people who support us. Check out all the great things going on at Underdog Fantasy, daily NBA snake draft contests, playoff best ball contests that lock on Saturday with the first kickoff of the playoffs are always fun and filling fast over on Underdog Fantasy. So check out all the great contests that you can play daily fantasy, as well as the pick'em games if they're available in your state as well. Lots of fun stuff to be able to invest and wager on underdogfantasy.com. Justin, any other things that the people should be aware of with Underdog?
Yes, I shouted this out last week, but Gil's Arena, the show that we have,
that's right,
out, and pick'em projections are now live in the lobby. I did a two-legger today with Peter Jennings over 14.5, and then Brandon Jennings
14.5 for Peter Jennings,
lower 19.5. So I did the Jennings,
wow,
there, for the slip. So they're live in the lobby. We got Peter Jennings, Gilbert Arenas, Brandon Jennings, Settleman's in there, and a couple others. So yeah,
love it.
I'm excited.
Bucks and six, baby.
Love it. Here for all of the roasting of Peter Jennings jump shot. Enjoy that content. So shout out to Gilbert Arenas for calling Pete a left-handed shooter. All right. As always, who wins in an ETR shootout? So,
oh man, not me. We shot basketballs at an arcade. I had not shot a basketball in a long time. I was terrible. Leone and Dank. Yeah, Dank would probably be the favorite.
Dank would win.
Dank wins. Yeah.
Dank wins, but Leone has the greatest ETR NBA shootout content video that will ever be posted. Yep. Him just absolutely destroying our buddy Galin in one-on-one and losing his mind for a good hour of the day, where he just went full Steph Curry, and I had it all on video. If I was Mike, I would never shoot a basketball again after that. Yeah. I would be like Jerry Seinfeld. I choose not to run. I won the contest. It was incredible. But Dank is the best shooter among ETR, and Dank is a very good shooter. Dank is he is the prototypical, any announcer calling Dank would call him sneaky athletic, gym rat. He is the prototypical guy that you would not expect to see kicking your butt across all sports, but he does.
First guy in, last guy out, sneaky athletic.
Exactly. Yeah, Dank's got it all working for him. All right. As always, if you're enjoying this content, please subscribe to this channel, get notifications by hitting that bell whenever we go live, and help us in our mission to get to 5,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel by the end of the NBA season. Share this content with your friends and family, and let them know, because we're putting out the good content here for you. If you're interested in stuff behind the paywall, you can check out myself and Gary Hartman behind the paywall tonight at 5 p.m. Eastern time, breaking down this slate from a DFS perspective: the good chalk, the bad chalk, the contrarian plays, the flag plants, of course, the sheep boys. They'll be in there charting it and making sure that we're on our toes with our flag plants. So check us out there behind the paywall. And as always, if you are interested in further supporting the free content that we're putting out here, the best way to do that is to feed that algorithm by smashing that like button. You feed the algorithm, it helps feed our families, allows us to feed you the NBA injury information analysis you need each and every day to set your DFS lineups, your season-long lineups, make your spread bets, and your prop bets. So smash that like button, feed that algorithm. Have a great weekend, everybody. Nom, 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 nom. We'll see you on Tuesday. Scheduling program note, Tuesday, MLK Day, we will take the day off with a big slate of NBA. So enjoy the weekend, everybody. Take care.